Hi, I'm Thea Prescod, and I work at Sanctuary in downtown Toronto. Currently, I'm acting as our pandemic manager. At Sanctuary, we describe ourselves as becoming a healthy, welcoming community in which people who are poor or excluded are particularly valued. And in this season, the people who are most excluded are people who don't have a home, as you've heard about in previous weeks. In this last week, as the province has begun to open, we found that many of the services for my friends have stayed closed, including libraries, public washrooms, and community centers. Another example is that Toronto usually has more than 50 organizations who do daytime drop-ins in a week, and now we have less than 15. So at Sanctuary, we've doubled our drop-ins, serving about 2,000 meals weekly. We've also found that as shelters don't have the physical space to do 6-foot distancing from all their residents, the city has offered and promised to provide alternate housing. But that option has been slow and piecemeal, and many people still are way too close to each other. And so many of my friends have left the shelters for their safety from the virus. What that's left us with at Sanctuary is an encampment that has more than 60 residents between our property and the park next door to us. Having an encampment that size has been complicated. It's been challenging, it's been overwhelming, and it's also been full of unexpected and extraordinary beauty. We've had to become very creative with our infection control methods, including renting 3 porta potties with sinks so that people have places to wash their hands. And this week, we're delighted to announce that Women's College Hospital is going to be providing whole community screening for coronavirus. And that will help us with 3 things. The first is we'll be able to figure out the effectiveness of our infection control efforts. The second is we'll be able to provide care for our folks who have the virus. And then finally, we'll be able to do contact tracing to reduce the spread of the virus in our whole city. Unfortunately, the city is still threatening to evict encampments. Despite recommendations by the American Center for Disease Control that says dispersing people who are living together in encampments actually increases the risk of community spread, right? Because it's the opposite of shelter in place. Some of our folks have been housed by the city, which we're incredibly grateful for, but there's been some challenges in these new short-term housing. The plan for that housing was that it was going to be harm reduction, but there wasn't space or strategies specifically for safe opiate use. And so we've had a community member die of an opiate overdose in one of them. So there's some things we urgently need from this city. We need a commitment to not clearing encampments until this pandemic is declared over by the World Health Organization. We need people living in encampments to have city-provided washrooms, hand washing stations, showers, laundry. So all of the basics that can keep people living in a dignified way and in a safe way. We also need the city to rapidly acquire more property for short-term housing. And all of that housing needs to have well-defined, community-led harm reduction options. Finally, in the long term, we need rent control, as you heard about last week. We need a reinvestment in social housing, and we need a clearer national housing strategy. So what can you do in the middle of all of this? Well, last week Angie Hawking mentioned our website, faithinaction.to, and I'd encourage you to go there, sign our petition, learn about the issues, and share on social media. And if an encampment moves to your neighborhood, you can explain to your neighbors why people have left the shelters and why clearing the encampment is a bad idea. You can offer food, water, or fire extinguishers to your new neighbors in the encampments. And when you go there to offer them those things, you can ask them what else that they need for safe and dignified living. Thanks for listening, and thanks for caring so much about the most vulnerable in this pandemic.